My name is Emily Carter, and for most of my life, I believed my family had already decided who mattered more. It wasn't something anyone said directly. My parents never sat me down and told me, "Your brother is more important than you." They didn't have to. I could see it in the way they treated him. My older brother, Michael, was always the one who needed help. When he lost his job, Dad found him another one. When he couldn't pay his rent, Mom covered it. When his business failed, my parents called it a temporary setback. And when I struggled, they simply told me, "You're strong. You'll figure it out." So I did. I figured everything out myself. I paid my own bills. I bought my own small house. I built a career. I never asked my parents for money. And strangely enough, that became the reason they expected even more from me. Dad was different from most fathers. He was strict, private, and extremely careful with money. He owned a successful construction company that had grown over 30 years into something much larger than our family ever expected. There were commercial properties, investment accounts, several rental houses, and one enormous family estate outside the city. That estate had been in our family for decades. It was where we celebrated Christmas, where Dad hosted business dinners, where Mom planted roses every spring, and where Michael always told everyone, "Someday, all of this will be mine." I never argued with him. I never wanted it. At least, that's what I told myself. Then, 3 weeks before Dad died, he called me. It was late. Almost 11 at night. I remember staring at my phone because Dad almost never called that late. "Emily," he said when I answered. His voice sounded tired. "Dad? Are you okay?" There was a long pause. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Promise me you'll stay calm when the time comes." I sat up in bed. "What time?" Another pause. "You'll understand." "Dad, you're scaring me." He laughed softly. "I'm fine." But he wasn't. 2 days later, he was admitted to the hospital. A week after that, he was gone. My father died on a cold Tuesday morning. And suddenly, our entire family changed. At the funeral, Michael stood beside Mom wearing an expensive black suit. He looked devastated. But there was something else in his expression. Confidence. Almost certainty. I noticed it when relatives started talking about Dad's estate. One uncle whispered, "Michael will probably take over the company." Another said, "That house is worth a fortune." Michael heard them. And he smiled. Not a sad smile. A victorious one. I didn't understand why until the lawyer called us. His name was Robert Harrison. He had handled my father's legal affairs for more than 20 years. He asked us to come to his office the following Monday. Mom, Michael, and I arrived together. The room was quiet. A large wooden table stood in the center. Several folders were placed in front of Robert. Michael sat beside Mom. I sat across from them. Robert adjusted his glasses. "Before we begin, I want everyone to understand that this meeting concerns your father's final estate plan." Michael leaned back. Understood. There was something almost arrogant about the way he said it. Robert opened the first folder. "Your father left a detailed will." Michael looked at me. Then he smiled. That same smile. The one that said he already knew how this was going to end. Robert began reading. "The family residence and surrounding property." Michael straightened. "Are to be transferred to Michael Carter." Mom's eyes filled with tears. Michael slowly nodded. I said nothing. Robert continued. "The majority ownership of Carter Construction." Michael's smile grew. Is also to be transferred to Michael Carter. Michael leaned back in his chair. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then he looked directly at me. I'm sorry, Emily. I frowned. For what? He shrugged. I know this must be difficult. I almost laughed. Difficult? He nodded. You know Dad always wanted me to continue his work. I stared at him. He was enjoying this. He wasn't mourning anymore. He was celebrating. Robert continued reading. Several investment properties and financial assets. Michael's eyes widened. Will be liquidated according to the instructions in the attached estate schedule. Then Robert stopped. He closed the folder. Michael looked confused. Is that everything? Robert didn't answer immediately. He looked at him. Then at Mom. Then at me. Finally, he said. Not exactly. Michael's expression changed. What do you mean? Robert reached for another folder. This is where things become complicated. Michael laughed. Complicated? Robert nodded. Your father maintained several financial accounts outside the primary estate. Michael's smile disappeared slightly. How many? Robert looked down at the documents. 3 that I am aware of. Michael leaned forward. And what's in them? Robert didn't answer. Instead, he opened another document. One account contains approximately $2.4 million. Mom gasped. Michael stared at him. 2.4. Robert nodded. And the second contains approximately $1.8 million. Michael's eyes practically lit up. Then Robert said. The third account is significantly larger. The room became completely silent. Michael whispered. How much? Robert looked at him. Approximately $11 million. Michael slowly leaned back. Then he smiled. That same smug smile. Well. He looked at me. Looks like Dad really did take care of me. I felt something inside me sink. I didn't know why. Maybe because I had already understood where this was going. Robert closed the folder. Michael, I haven't said who receives those accounts. Michael laughed. Come on, Robert. Dad left me the company and the estate. Obviously. Robert interrupted him. No. One word. Michael froze. Robert calmly looked at him. The 3 accounts are not included in the inheritance you just heard. Michael's smile vanished. What? Robert repeated. They are governed by separate beneficiary designations. Michael sat forward. Then who gets them? Robert didn't answer immediately. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sealed envelope, and placed it on the table. My heart began beating faster. I recognized the handwriting. It was Dad's. Robert looked at all 3 of us. Your father specifically instructed me to open this envelope only after the primary estate had been acknowledged. Michael frowned. What does it say? Robert looked at him. Before I read it. He turned toward me. Emily, your father asked me to give you something. He slid a small key across the table. I stared at it. A tiny silver key. What is this? Robert said quietly. Your father told me you'd know when you saw it. I didn't. Not yet. Michael reached toward the key. I quickly pulled it toward me. Why does she get that? Robert didn't answer. Instead, he opened the envelope. He unfolded a handwritten letter. Then he began reading. Robert, if you're reading this in front of my children, then I am no longer here to explain what I should have explained years ago. Mom covered her mouth. Michael stared at the letter. Robert continued. I know Michael will believe the inheritance makes him the winner. Michael's face hardened. I know Emily will probably say she doesn't want anything. I felt tears forming. But the truth is, neither of them knows what I have been protecting. Robert stopped. Michael immediately said, Keep reading. Robert looked at him. Then continued. There is one account that neither of my children knows exists. Michael leaned forward. 11 million. Robert shook his head. No. Michael's face changed. Robert continued reading. The $11 million account is not the important one. Silence. Then. The important account contains something far more valuable than money. Michael frowned. What does that mean? Robert lowered the letter. I'll explain. Michael looked irritated. No. Read the rest. Robert continued. The account is under a name that will surprise them. My hands became cold. And the beneficiary is. Robert stopped. Michael stood. Why did you stop? Robert looked directly at me. Then he said. Emily. My breath caught. Michael stared at me. No. Robert nodded. The beneficiary is Emily Carter. Michael's face turned pale. What? I couldn't speak. Robert opened another document. Your father established this account 18 years ago. Michael slammed his hand on the table. 18 years. Robert nodded. Yes. How much is in it? Robert looked at me. Then back at Michael. That's the part you need to understand. He pushed the document toward me. I looked down. There was an account number. A bank name. And beneath it, a balance. My eyes widened. I whispered. That's impossible. Michael grabbed the paper. His eyes scanned the number. Then he froze. For the first time since we entered the room. Michael wasn't smiling. He wasn't confident. He wasn't celebrating. He was terrified. Because the number on that document wasn't 11 million. It wasn't 20 million. It was $27,436,812.19. Michael slowly looked at me. What did Dad leave you? I stared at the account statement. And suddenly I remembered Dad's final phone call. Promise me you'll stay calm when the time comes. Now I understood. He hadn't been talking about his death. He had been talking about this. But Robert wasn't finished. He pulled another document from the briefcase. And this time, his voice became unusually serious. Emily. He placed it in front of me. Your father left instructions concerning what happens to this money. I looked at him. What kind of instructions? Robert took a breath. Instructions that could completely change what happens to your brother's inheritance. Michael immediately stood again. What does that mean? Robert looked at him. It means the estate you think you inherited. He paused. May not actually belong to you. Michael's face went white. And then Robert said the words that changed everything. Emily, check this account. For several seconds, nobody moved. The lawyer's words seemed to hang in the room. Emily, check this account. I stared at the statement in front of me. $27,436,812.19. I read the number again. Then again. My mind refused to accept it. I had never seen that much money in my life. I had spent years checking my bank account before buying groceries. I had delayed replacing my car because I didn't want another monthly payment. And now I was staring at an account with more money than I could have imagined. But something bothered me. "Robert," I whispered, "why didn't Dad ever tell me about this?" The lawyer leaned back. "Because he didn't want you to know." Michael suddenly laughed. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was nervous. Almost desperate. "There's no way this is real." Robert looked at him. "It is." Michael pointed at the statement. $27 million. "You're telling me Dad secretly gave my sister $27 million while leaving me the company?" Robert remained calm. "Your father didn't secretly give Emily $27 million. Michael frowned. "Then what did he do?" Robert answered. "He protected it." The room became silent again. Mom looked at me. "Protected it from what?" Robert folded his hands. "From everyone." Michael stood up. "That's ridiculous." Robert didn't react. "Your father knew that if certain people knew about the account, they would try to access it." Michael stared at him. "Who?" Robert looked directly at him. "You?" Michael's face changed instantly. "Me?" Robert nodded. "Your father was concerned about your financial decisions." Michael's voice rose. "He was my father. And he loved you," Robert replied. "That's exactly why he created this arrangement." Michael paced across the office. I remained seated. I couldn't stop thinking about Dad. The last few years of his life suddenly looked different. The strange conversations. The questions about my finances. The time he asked me whether I still owned my house. The day he told me, "Never sign anything you haven't read yourself." At the time, I thought he was simply giving me fatherly advice. Now I realized he had been preparing me. Robert opened another folder. "Emily, your father established this account 18 years ago. Why?" "Because of something that happened back then." I looked at him. "What happened?" Robert hesitated. "Before I explain that, you need to understand the conditions attached to the account." Michael immediately interrupted. "Conditions?" Robert nodded. "Yes." Michael crossed his arms. "What conditions?" Robert looked at me. "The money isn't simply yours to spend however you want." Michael smiled again. "There it is." He turned toward me. "See? I knew there was a catch." But Robert continued. "Emily has complete ownership of the account." Michael's smile disappeared. "Then what's the condition?" Robert answered. "She must use a portion of the money to protect the family assets." Michael stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means your father placed restrictions on the transfer of several properties." Robert pulled another document from the file. "Your father's company owns the land beneath the family estate." Michael nodded. "Right. And that land has an outstanding development agreement." Michael's expression became confused. "What development agreement?" Robert looked at him. "The one you just inherited." Michael's face changed. "You're saying there's debt?" "No." Robert shook his head. "Something worse." Michael stepped closer. "What?" Robert placed the document on the table. The property was used as collateral for a private business agreement. Michael looked at Mom. Mom looked confused too. "I didn't know about this." Robert nodded. "Your father kept it private." Michael picked up the document. His eyes moved quickly across the page. Then he stopped. "Wait." He looked at Robert. "What's this clause?" Robert answered. "The controlling interest clause." Michael's face went pale. I looked at the document. I didn't understand the legal language. Can someone explain? Robert pointed to a paragraph. Your father could leave the company to Michael. He paused. But the company cannot be transferred, sold, or used as collateral without the approval of the beneficiary of the protected account. I stared at him. Me? Robert nodded. Yes. Michael dropped the document onto the table. No. Robert calmly replied. Yes. Michael shook his head. That makes no sense. It was intentional. Michael turned toward me. So Dad gave me the company, but made her the person who controls it. Robert corrected him. Not exactly. He looked at me. Your father gave you the company. Then he looked at Michael. But he gave Emily the power to prevent anyone from destroying it. Michael's jaw tightened. You mean she can stop me from selling it? Yes. Taking loans against it? Yes. Changing ownership? Yes. Michael stared at me. She can control my company. I slowly shook my head. I don't want your company. Robert interrupted. That's exactly what your father expected you to say. I looked at him. What? Robert smiled sadly. Your father knew you never wanted power over your brother. He opened another letter. This is from him. He began reading. Emily will probably refuse to control Michael's life. That is why I am not asking her to control him. My eyes filled with tears. I am asking her to protect what I spent 30 years building. Robert paused. Then continued. Michael has always believed that ownership means freedom. One day, he may learn that ownership also means responsibility. Michael looked away. I could see anger building inside him. This is unbelievable. Robert closed the letter. There's more. Michael looked at him. What now? Robert pulled out a bank document. This account isn't simply an inheritance. He placed it in front of me. It was created from your father's personal investment portfolio. I looked at the amount again. Why put it in my name? Robert answered. Because your father believed you were the only person in the family who wouldn't use money to escape responsibility. That sentence hurt. Because I knew exactly what he meant. Michael had always used money to solve problems. I had always used work. Mom suddenly spoke. Robert. Her voice trembled. Did your father know he was dying? Robert was silent for a moment. Yes. Mom covered her mouth. He knew. He knew his condition was serious. She began crying. Why didn't he tell us? Robert looked down. Because he didn't know who he could trust. Michael immediately snapped. He didn't trust me. Robert looked at him. Not with the money. Michael's face hardened. But he trusted her. Robert nodded. Yes. The words seemed to destroy something inside Michael. He sat down. For the first time, he looked less like the confident heir and more like my frightened little brother. He stared at the floor. How much did you know? I looked at him. Nothing. You're lying. I'm not. You knew about this account. I swear I didn't. Michael looked at Robert. Did she know? No. Did Mom know? Robert shook his head. No. Michael leaned back. So Dad planned everything without telling any of us. Robert answered quietly. Because your father had one final fear. What? That his family would destroy itself over money. Nobody spoke. Then Robert opened a small black folder. There is one more thing. Michael looked exhausted. What now? Robert slid the folder toward me. Inside was a photograph. It showed Dad standing beside a younger version of me. I recognized the location immediately. It was the old family property. But there was something strange about the photograph. On the back, Dad had written, "For Emily." When the truth finally comes out, my hands started shaking. I turned the photograph over. Underneath the message was a date. 18 years earlier. I looked at Robert. "What happened 18 years ago?" He took a deep breath. "That's when your father created the account." "Why?" Robert looked at Mom. She immediately began crying. I stared at her. "Mom?" She couldn't look at me. "Mom, what happened?" She whispered. "There was an accident." I felt my stomach tighten. "What accident?" Robert answered. "Your father was involved in a business dispute." Michael looked confused. "What does that have to do with Emily?" Robert didn't answer. Mom finally looked at me. Her face was covered in tears. "Emily." I waited. She whispered. "Your father wasn't supposed to be the one who survived." I froze. "What?" Robert closed the folder. "Your father made a decision 18 years ago that changed the entire family." Michael stood. "What decision?" Robert looked at him. "That's what your father wanted Emily to discover herself." I stared at the photograph. Then at the account statement. Then at my mother. Suddenly, the $27 million didn't feel like a gift. It felt like evidence. Evidence of something my father had hidden for nearly 2 decades. And whatever happened 18 years ago, it wasn't just about money. It was about me. And my father had left one final instruction. Robert handed me another sealed envelope. "Your father said you should open this only after you see the account balance." My fingers trembled as I took it. Michael watched me. For once, he wasn't angry. He looked scared. I slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten page. The first sentence made my heart stop. "Emily, if you've reached this point, then Michael has already received the inheritance he thinks he wanted." I continued reading. Then I saw the next line. "But the money was never the secret." And underneath it, "The secret is why I chose you." I stared at Dad's letter. "The secret is why I chose you." I read the sentence twice. "Robert, what did Dad mean?" The lawyer remained silent for a moment. Then he said, "Your father wanted you to know the truth, but only when you were ready." Michael shook his head. "I don't understand any of this." Mom lowered her eyes. I looked at her. "Mom, you know something." She didn't answer. "Please." Finally, she whispered. 18 years ago, your father discovered that someone inside the family was stealing from his company." Michael froze. "Who?" Mom looked at him. "I don't know." Robert interrupted. "Your father never proved who it was." I looked at the letter again. "Then why create an account for me?" Robert answered quietly. "Because he discovered that the stolen money was being moved through accounts connected to the family business." Michael frowned. "So the $27 million was completely legitimate," Robert said. "Your father built that investment account separately over 18 years. I looked confused. "Then what's the connection?" Robert opened another document. "Your father believed that one day someone would try to take control of the company and use its assets to cover old financial problems." Michael's face became pale. "You think I would do that?" "No," Robert said. "Your father feared you might be manipulated into doing it." Michael looked at me. "And Emily?" Robert nodded. "Your father trusted her judgment." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad really thought I could protect the company. Yes. Robert pushed another document toward me. This is the final condition. I read it carefully.